Welcome back, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, to the super, not funny show, Reviews. And today, we're reviewing Interview with the Vampire, the newest drama series coming to you from AMC, based on the novel of the same name by AMC, and it's streaming on AMC Plus. So, what did I think about it? And should you be watching? Interview with Vampire, I'd like to say, has a bit of an uphill climb here. There's a movie extremely popular back in the '90s that covered this book. The book series is long, long, and much lore and history and everything like that. Very well beloved. Maybe not as pop culture relevant as it has been in the past, but all of the spawn of Anne Rice's vampires have, like Twilight and such, have really made quite big splashes in pop culture. So expectations are quite high up there, or maybe they're quite low because they made some changes to the story. It's very relevant and very big changes, in fact, by race swapping the main character, no longer a white man, but a black man, but also changing the time period from the 1860s pre-war plantation era in Louisiana to instead New Orleans of the 1910s. And so, there's much ado here, and people have much expectation. And so, I went into this having read much of the books, having a good deal of knowledge, but it's been some time since I've read the books, and having seen the movies and so forth and so on, and being very intrigued by the fact that they made some changes. How are they going to work? What would the story be like without some of the trappings of the previous versions? And would they still get to the heart of it? And you know what? I'm here to report to you that they do, and then some. Again, people who are really married to the idea of taking a book and translating it word to word from page to screen, you're not going to be happy because that's not what's going on here. But the heart and the soul of that book do exist within this. And then I might even argue it improves upon it in some way. Uh, this is all about Louis Dupont Dulac, who is, in this one, he's a young Creole man. He's the head of his household. His father's sort of squandered money, but previously from, I guess, a well-to-do Creole family, and trying to make his way in New Orleans best he can as a colored man in a white man's world, and he does so by investing in brothels and doing quite well, managing for some people, and sort of trying to play his role as best he can as a black man that clearly is going to not be able to rise as much as he wants to. But by doing so, being very successful in his ventures as a pimp, if you will, he manages to, make a good living for his family, keep them in good stead, and also to sort of, make a name for himself. Feels somewhat more above his station, maybe, than some people might think he should be. And it's all very interesting. But as soon as Lestat, the vampire, enters the scene, things really, accelerate and start changing, because Lestat brings, it's not even want to say chaotic. He's a predator that wants to sire offspring, but is also very much, kind of having, affection, love, what have you here. And so his introduction of Louis to being vampire and what it means to be a predator that never dies, and how people are different than vampires and all that is all very, very interesting and expected. And Lestat is, very much that guy that is alluring, and he's sexy and alluring, and he gets you under his spell. He's very coy at times, but also he's very much a predator, and he's got a lot of exoticism because he is French, and maybe old school French. But it also, because he's white, he also has the ability to move around and do whatever he wants. He's quite rich, and that all means something to Louis, who sort of has to hat in hand sometimes to people that he's smarter than and is more capable and so forth, just because he's black. And that's, I think, why I said this show is better in some ways than the original story, because in the original, Louis is very much a sad sack that is, hey, laments the fact that he's got all this life and everything like that that he's got to kill, and he's just a vampire that doesn't enjoy being a vampire. And in this one, all of that, sort of, pity me, woe is me sort of shit, sort of goes by the wayside because Black Louis has real problems. When he becomes a vampire, it doesn't adding more power to him doesn't make his life easier. He still has familial connections that he doesn't want to break. He still has the fact that no matter how immortal he is, he's still a black guy, and he still gets shit on because of it. And people keep still wanting to put him in his place, and sort of take from him and all this other stuff. Race is dealt with in this story in a way that I'm happy that they did. They didn't shy away from it. They didn't play around. They didn't tiptoe. They didn't. There was no subtext. It's all out there in the open that a black vampire in Jim Crow South is going to still have the boot heel of white supremacy pushing him down, and being a vampire doesn't change that fact. And that Lestat sort of just hand waves it away because, in part because he doesn't see himself as human anymore, but also because he's never really faced that problem, being a white European man, presenting at least in that way. So his access to that sort of bother, not only want to call it bother, that sort of dehumanizing sort of treatment that Louis has to contend with, he doesn't quite get it because it's nothing to him, because these are just cattle, and he doesn't see that Louis being black does really weigh on the fact that it does constrain him, even if he's super powerful. And we see that come to a head in the third episode when Louis, in a very angered state about his situation with his money and his business and the way people are more or less trying to screw him over. We see him sort of lash out, and how the effect of that, how just he is unaffected because he's immortal and he's super powerful, but because he did it in such a way that it blows back onto the black community of New Orleans in a very bad way, essentially a race riot. That all of that is very, not just interesting, it's vital to this story. The fact that they are just going head on into that, not shying away. And I especially like Daniel, the way he's probing at all of this, all of these things that are happening, and his culpability and his feelings about it. I also really like the fact that they approach the whole subtext that a lot of the vampire novels are very much about vampires that they're not generally speaking, aren't straight, they're not gay. They're attracted to each other, male or female, because of they are singular. There are not that many of them. They're going to spend eternity. If they have decades, thousands of years, and they're going to essentially try everything. It's being a vampire is about appetite and sex. Lestat literally says it. It's about desire and pleasure, and slaking the desire, the desires of the flesh. That's how to stave off boredom, is to seek new pleasure. And so constraining oneself to one person or one sex or anything like that, or that means it doesn't make any sense. And so in this sense, you have uh, Louis and Lestat in the books and even in the previous movie, it's having to be subtext about their, having their gay romance. But there's no subtext here. It simply is. Uh, Louis straight up acknowledges I was a gay black man, and I couldn't be that because that would have been super hard for me to live. But as a vampire, he can do whatever he wants, and people, you know, whisper and so forth and so on about them. But it really doesn't really touch them because it is in its way a romance between two men, and they don't shy away from it or tiptoe around it or any of that shit. They just go and present it, and then present it in a way of a much older man and a much younger man, and kind of the disparities and the power dynamics between them, and what jealousies and so forth, and how the whole we're living forever and we're free to sort of do whatever is constrained by the fact that as much as Lestat says he's not a human anymore, he still has human emotions. It's all of that is very interesting. I also liked that they dealt with Louis losing his family as kind of I guess a metaphor for the fact that he's slowly losing his humanity. As he gives into his vampiric nature, he must necessarily lose his connection with his family, which he loves very much. Um, it's all sort of symbolized in a way with the whole bit with his baby nephew, and whether or not he was going to drain the baby. And it's so tense and so interesting, and to see really who Louis is as a person when he has the opportunity to do something monstrous and doesn't. I mean, I could go on and on into more of the stuff that's going on, like his mother sort of seeing through him and rejecting him and blaming him for his brother's death. And we also have, at the very end of the third episode, where we're going to see the introduction of Claudia very, very, very briefly. Um, I find it as a character study, especially in the way that Daniel, the framing of the whole character study of Louis, with Daniel the older, sort of curmudgeonly, sort of a little less afraid, a little less you know driven by ambition, more driven by this may be the last great work I do as a person that's sort of ailing, get with Parkinson's or whatever. And to also know that maybe the interview with the vampire, the book originally, was a real thing, and that the interview, as Louis says, is that was sort of a put on, and that those tapes and everything that he had said 25 years in the past wasn't as accurate, and this is the more accurate telling of what went on. I think that that's all interesting. And in fact, Daniel as a character, I'm far more drawn to him as an older man that's more probing and more and less bedazzled, not bedazzled, but less dazzled by the mystique of the vampire. He sees amazing things and understands them to be real, as he did 25 years in the past. But years of living have sort of given him a different perspective that allows him, I think, to really be a better foil for what Louis is saying here. I enjoyed all of that immensely. So all of that is to say, the performances are on point. The costumes, all of that. There's a lot. It's all very atmospheric. I feel like they are back in the time they are in. All of the characters are really playing well against each other. At first I didn't much care for all of the narration, but as we get further into it, I understand that sort of Louis being able to explain how he's thinking and feeling about things was actually very, very good, very informative for lots of the scenes, because we don't have access to what other people are thinking. And I want to say that Lestat is like exactly what he should be. It's so engaging, so Like I said, he's alluring, but like dangerous, petty, but very, hedonistic, all of that stuff. And just trying to pull Louis away from his humanity. And Louis is just really holding on to his humanity is, by a thread. So very interesting. And I really, really love this show. The first episode I wasn't totally sold on, but episodes 2 and 3, they just really they sold me completely on this. And I'm really excited to see where they go with the rest of this series. I think it's only 8 episodes for the first season. I would like to think that they complete the first book, but there is so much more to go. They haven't even left New Orleans yet. They're just now meeting Claudia, and there's so much more ground to cover that first book covers. But if they do get to the end of it, that'd be great. If they don't, they got another season. That's awesome too. If they are continuing in this trajectory, this show is going to be excellent all the way up to the end. So I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, that's my long-winded thoughts about the first 3 episodes of Interview with the Vampire, without too many spoilers. But you guys, if you got a chance to go check those 3 out, what'd you think about it? And what'd you think about what I had to say? Get down to the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Of course, you can always hit me up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter. And while you're down there, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps with the algorithm and so more people can see these videos. And subscribe. Join the Super Not Funny Show channel. And you can also hit the notification bell to let you know when we drop more content. All right, all you Fabricans and Fleshbags, thanks for joining me on this review. Come back next week. I'll be reviewing episode 4 of Interview with the Vampire. Until then, I've been Mo de Poupée, resident fabricant and comic extraordinaire on all things pop culture. And I'll see you guys on the other side of the thread. Peace.